In Hollywood, stories are often larger than life. The red carpets, the flashing cameras, the perfect smiles, they all create a world that feels untouchable. But behind the bright lights, there's a quieter, darker side of fame, one that plays out not on screen, but in courtrooms and legal documents. And today, that story centers around Blake Lively, one of Hollywood's most beloved faces, and a lawsuit that could change everything for her and those around her. It all began when Blake's legal team filed new motions that left everyone talking. Even longtime followers of celebrity news couldn't believe what they were seeing. They weren't just filing an update, they were trying to reshape the entire story. According to reports, Blake's lawyers were now arguing that the evidence they didn't have was actually the most important evidence of all. It was a bold and confusing claim that had people scratching their heads. How can something that doesn't exist be used as proof? To understand this strange twist, we have to go back to the heart of the case. Blake Lively's team has been battling accusations, rumors, and public relations disasters that seem to grow by the week. Her opponents, including names like Justin Baldoni, Jed Wallace, and a series of PR firms, have been accused of running what Blake's lawyers describe as a smear campaign. The idea is that these people allegedly worked behind the scenes to damage her reputation through online gossip, manipulated headlines, and coordinated leaks. Now, the focus of the case has narrowed down to one thing: a set of Signal messages. For those who might not know, Signal is an encrypted messaging app often used by people who want their conversations to stay private. It has a feature called auto-delete, where messages disappear after being read. And that, according to Blake's team, is exactly the problem. They claim that those missing Signal messages contain the smoking gun, proof that a coordinated smear campaign was run against Blake. Her lawyers are saying that since those messages were deleted, it must mean they contain the evidence they were looking for. They've filed a motion asking the judge for something called spoliation sanctions, a legal term that means they want the court to punish the other side for destroying evidence. Essentially, Blake's lawyers are saying, "We can't show you the proof because it's been deleted, but trust us, it was there." And they're taking this idea a step further. They're asking the judge to tell the jury, if the case goes to trial, that they can assume those deleted messages proved Blake's story was true. It's a risky strategy. In legal circles, that kind of argument can sometimes backfire because it depends on speculation rather than hard evidence. But it also shows how determined Blake's team is to keep this case alive, even when they don't have concrete proof in hand. The motion they've filed includes several requests. First, they want the jury to be allowed to assume the missing messages would have proven Blake's claims. Second, they're asking the judge to stop the other side from denying that they ever ran a smear campaign. Third, they want sanctions against Jed Wallace and his PR company, accusing them of bad faith behavior during the discovery process. And finally, they want reimbursement for their legal costs in preparing this motion. Now, this might sound complicated, but in simple terms, what Blake's team is saying is this: we think our opponents deleted messages that made them look guilty, and we want the judge to treat that as proof. But not everyone is buying it. Many people watching this case unfold say this latest filing feels like desperation, a last-ditch attempt to keep the public on Blake's side. Critics argue that if she had solid proof, she wouldn't need to lean on missing data to make her point. Some even believe this is all part of a bigger PR strategy, one designed to shift the public's attention away from other growing controversies around Blake and her husband, Ryan Reynolds. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni's legal team has 2 weeks to respond to the filing, and they're expected to argue that using Signal's auto-delete feature wasn't some secret plot to destroy evidence. It was just how they've always communicated. In the world of public relations, privacy is everything. They deal with sensitive information, celebrity reputations, and crisis management every day. Using encrypted and disappearing messages is common practice, not necessarily a sign of guilt. But the argument from Blake's side is that once the lawsuit was filed, those settings should have been turned off. They claim that continuing to use the auto-delete function after being sued shows an intent to hide evidence. It's a subtle but powerful accusation, suggesting that every deleted message is a potential cover-up. Of course, there's another layer to all of this. Anyone who's been involved in legal battles knows how emotional these cases can get. Behind the formal filings and legal language are real people, frustrated, angry, and often exhausted. It's not hard to imagine that those private Signal chats may have contained venting, harsh words, or unfiltered opinions about Blake and Ryan. That doesn't make them evidence of a crime or a smear campaign, it just makes them human. But in the world of lawsuits, even ordinary messages can take on a new meaning when lawyers get involved. As this legal drama unfolds, observers can't help but notice that Blake's team seems to be using this case to build a larger narrative. They want to show that Blake Lively is the victim of a coordinated effort to destroy her public image. And even if the evidence is gone, they want people to believe that it once existed, and that its absence is proof of wrongdoing. This is where the case becomes more than just a legal battle. It turns into a story about perception, media influence, and the power of narrative. In today's celebrity world, what people believe often matters more than what can be proven. The irony, of course, is that Blake's case depends entirely on something that can never be seen, messages that no longer exist. And yet, her lawyers are treating that as the foundation of their argument. Whether or not the judge agrees will determine how this story moves forward. For now, the entertainment world is watching closely. Some say this is Blake's boldest move yet, others call it her most desperate. Either way, it has everyone talking. But this story doesn't stop there. Just as Blake's legal battle heats up, another familiar Hollywood name decides to jump into the storm, Stephanie Jones. And she's not just taking notes from Blake's playbook, she's using it word for word. As if Blake Lively's courtroom drama wasn't complicated enough, another Hollywood figure decided to step into the spotlight, Stephanie Jones. And not only that, she's using almost the exact same argument that Blake's team is using in her own legal feud. Now, if you've been following the tangled web of lawsuits, you'll know Stephanie's story connects to Jennifer Ael, another figure who's been caught in the middle of all these celebrity disputes and public relations storms. Stephanie and Jennifer were once considered friendly colleagues. Their paths crossed often in the world of entertainment, PR, and brand partnerships. But like many relationships in Hollywood, things soured quickly when money, image, and influence got involved. Stephanie's new filing mirrors Blake Lively's in a way that's almost uncanny. She's now saying that her opponent, Jennifer Ael, also had access to Signal group chats that were mysteriously deleted. According to Stephanie, those deleted messages could prove her own claims that Jennifer was running a behind-the-scenes smear operation, not against Blake, but against her. In other words, both women are now using the same legal weapon, the missing evidence argument. It's a tactic that allows them to frame the lack of proof as the strongest proof of all. The logic is, if we can't see it, it's because someone hid it. For outsiders watching this play out, it feels like déjà vu. Two separate women in the entertainment world, both claiming to be the victims of secret group chats, both insisting that deleted messages contain the key to their cases. To some, it seems like a coincidence. To others, it looks like the start of a broader Hollywood trend, one where personal grievances turn into headline-grabbing lawsuits built on speculation rather than substance. Stephanie Jones' team is arguing that Jennifer Ael was secretly part of a campaign to harm her reputation and career opportunities. And the absence of her name in those group chats, Stephanie says, actually proves that Jennifer was running operations behind her back. The reasoning is circular, but in Hollywood legal drama, that rarely stops the story from spreading. Observers online immediately drew parallels between Stephanie's filing and Blake Lively's ongoing case. Social media lit up with comparisons. Some users joked that Hollywood has discovered the missing evidence strategy, while others were more critical, suggesting that both women were playing legal chess with empty boards, hoping that the public, not the court, would be their ultimate jury. It's important to understand something here. When lawsuits like this go public, they aren't just legal battles. They're also part of a PR war, a war for sympathy, for reputation, and for the narrative. Blake's supporters see her as standing up against powerful forces trying to discredit her. Stephanie's followers say the same thing about her. But critics on both sides believe these lawsuits are less about justice and more about control over public perception. Meanwhile, fans and entertainment commentators can't help but notice that these filings always seem to appear right when something else is about to break. Just as Blake's legal filing made waves, Stephanie's came hours later, like clockwork, adding another layer of drama to an already complicated week in celebrity news. It's as if Hollywood itself is locked in a loop of stories feeding on stories, one scandal distracting from the next. And in the middle of it all, people like Andy Cohen, Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and even Emma Stone find their names popping up in ways they never intended. Just as Stephanie Jones' filing was gaining traction, Andy Cohen stepped into the mix, though unintentionally. On his late-night talk show Watch What Happens Live, he had actress Allison Williams as a guest. She was there to promote her new movie adaptation of Colleen Hoover's Regretting You. It was supposed to be a light-hearted interview, but Andy couldn't resist bringing up Blake Lively. He jokingly pretended to forget her name, saying, "What's her name again?" when referring to Blake, and the studio audience laughed. Allison Williams, slightly caught off guard, gently corrected him, "Blake Lively." Andy's smirk said it all. The jab wasn't accidental. Viewers online quickly caught on, sharing the clip across TikTok and Instagram with captions like, "Andy knows exactly what he's doing." It might have been playful on the surface, but in the current atmosphere, where every public mention of Blake is dissected, it felt more like a dig than a joke. And it didn't help that Andy had previously made comments hinting at skepticism toward Blake's claims. Moments like this matter in Hollywood. When someone as influential as Andy Cohen takes a subtle jab, it can sway public sentiment. People start to wonder who in the industry believes Blake and who doesn't. For older audiences who followed these stars for years, it's a reminder of how quickly Hollywood loyalty can shift. One day you're a golden starlet loved by everyone. The next, your name becomes a punchline on late-night TV. This isn't the first time that a Hollywood dispute spilled into public commentary, but the timing here is striking. Andy's segment aired just as Blake's new legal filings were being discussed across entertainment media. To many watchers, it felt like the industry's insiders were sending quiet signals that Blake might not have as much support behind closed doors as her team wants the public to think. And while that conversation was happening on live television, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman were quietly fighting their own battle. Not in court, but in the press. Ryan Reynolds has long been known for his public charm, his quick wit, his sarcasm, his social media humor. But now, some say he's using that same charm as a tool to manage his image amid the growing storm around Blake. Reports began to circulate that Ryan was planting stories, positive puff pieces about his friendship with Hugh Jackman, his upcoming projects, and his good guy persona. One article in People magazine, published just 2 days after negative headlines about Blake resurfaced, was especially suspicious to some. It celebrated Ryan's long friendship with Hugh Jackman, a light-hearted story about how they celebrate their birthdays together every October. On the surface, it looked like harmless celebrity content, but the timing raised eyebrows. The birthday event had taken place weeks earlier, yet the story only appeared after Blake's recordings and court documents started spreading online. To PR-savvy readers, it seemed obvious. The story was planted to shift focus, to remind the world that Ryan Reynolds is the charming, wholesome figure everyone loves, not the husband of a star embroiled in controversy. For Ryan and Hugh, this kind of publicity game is nothing new. They've long played the friendly rivals act, teasing each other on social media and appearing together in interviews. But this time, the jokes felt heavier, like they were carrying the weight of distraction rather than fun. Even more intriguing, whispers began to circulate about Hugh Jackman's ex-wife, Deborah Lee Furness. She had been spotted around New York City, reportedly visiting publishing houses. Sources claimed she was working on a tell-all memoir about her life, her marriage, and possibly her years inside Hollywood's elite circles. The timing of her rumored book deal made some speculate whether it might touch on the tangled relationships and alliances forming around the Lively Reynolds drama. After all, in Hollywood, no one story exists in isolation. Each thread connects to another, weaving a web that always comes back to the same few names. And that's the strange beauty and danger of fame. The moment you become a public figure, your personal story stops belonging entirely to you. Every friend, every spouse, every coworker becomes part of the same narrative. By now, the entertainment world was buzzing. Two women, Blake Lively and Stephanie Jones, were accusing others of deleting messages that would supposedly prove their innocence. Ryan Reynolds was spinning light-hearted PR stories to balance the headlines. Andy Cohen was making jokes on late-night television, and Hugh Jackman's ex-wife was preparing to tell her truth. It felt like a storm, not the kind that passes quickly, but one that brews slowly, spreading across every corner of Hollywood. And yet, in the middle of all this noise, another story was about to take an even stranger turn. One involving Emma Stone, a daring PR stunt, and an audience willing to do almost anything for attention. As the courtroom battle rages on, Blake Lively's legal team finds itself walking a fine line between legal maneuvering and public relations management. Every new filing is not just a move in court. It's a message to the public, carefully crafted to shape how people perceive Blake's situation. But the problem is, that approach cuts both ways. The more Blake's lawyers push the narrative that she's been unfairly targeted, the more her opponents start pointing out how much she and Ryan Reynolds have benefited from controlling their image in the media. For years, the couple has been Hollywood's golden pair, charming, funny, and scandal-free. They've built an empire on likability. But now, with every new headline about this lawsuit, cracks are starting to show. It's as if the very thing that made them untouchable, their perfect image, is now being used against them. And that's exactly where Justin Baldoni's legal team sees their opportunity. According to leaked reports from inside the legal proceedings, Baldoni's lawyers are preparing to argue that Blake's team is intentionally using the lawsuit as a PR weapon. That every court motion is written not just for the judge, but for the press. They plan to show examples of how Blake's filings appear in online outlets almost instantly, often within hours of being submitted. And those articles don't just summarize the case, they often quote directly from Blake's side, framing her as the victim of a vast smear campaign. In their view, that's not justice, it's manipulation. They're saying this entire situation isn't about truth or evidence anymore, it's about perception. They believe Blake is trying to win in the court of public opinion rather than in an actual court of law. But behind the scenes, the mood isn't quite as confident as Blake's public image suggests. People close to her have described her as anxious, deeply frustrated, and increasingly isolated from Hollywood circles that once adored her. Friends and insiders whisper that she's tired of being painted as the perfect star. She reportedly feels betrayed, not just by the people she's suing, but by former colleagues who've chosen to stay silent instead of supporting her. Ryan, meanwhile, has been trying to stay out of the spotlight, though even his silence has become a story in itself. Fans have noticed that his usual playful social media banter has disappeared. Instead, he's been quiet, cautious, and visibly tense in his rare public appearances. For a couple whose brand depends on their light-hearted connection, that silence speaks volumes. And that's where the story begins to widen. Because while Blake's lawyers are trying to prove that she's been the target of a deliberate PR sabotage, some media analysts are now asking whether she might be doing the same thing to others. They point to a growing pattern, sudden stories appearing in online gossip blogs about people connected to the lawsuit. Headlines that seem to pop up out of nowhere, repeating talking points that echo Blake's legal filings. The timing of these stories raises eyebrows. Each one seems to appear right after a new development in court. To her critics, it looks less like coincidence and more like coordination. Still, there's no denying that this case has captured the public's imagination. For older viewers who've watched Hollywood evolve over decades, this story feels different, because it's not just about one star's downfall or redemption. It's about how fame itself has changed. In the past, scandals were managed quietly, often buried by powerful studios or agents. But now, every piece of gossip is amplified instantly, every filing becomes a headline, and every celebrity is forced to play defense in real time. The line between truth and strategy has never been thinner. As the legal filings continue, Blake's motion for sanctions over the missing signal messages becomes a key test. If the judge sides with her, it could give her team massive leverage. It would allow them to frame the entire case as proof that she was targeted and that her opponents destroyed evidence to cover their tracks. But if the judge rejects it, the entire narrative could collapse, leaving her not just without evidence, but with even more questions about her motives. Sources close to the court say the judge is taking the motion seriously, but isn't rushing to make a ruling. It's a complex issue, and one that could set a precedent for how encrypted communications are handled in future celebrity cases. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, the story keeps evolving. Stephanie Jones, who once worked in PR circles connected to both Blake and Baldoni, starts posting cryptic messages online. In one post, she writes, "Sometimes silence is protection." Fans and followers immediately interpret it as a dig at Blake, and soon, hashtags like #JusticeForBlake and #SpeakForTruth start trending. It's like watching a digital wildfire spread. Within hours, opinion pieces and YouTube videos flood the internet, dissecting every clue. What did Stephanie mean? Is she siding with Blake or exposing her? Nobody knows for sure, but the speculation only fuels more attention. And while all this chaos unfolds online, Blake's lawyers keep filing. They release carefully worded statements emphasizing her integrity, her professionalism, and her right to defend her name. They talk about ongoing emotional distress and the toll of being the target of a malicious media campaign. To the casual observer, it sounds convincing. But to legal analysts, it also sounds rehearsed, like a message crafted to appeal more to viewers than to the judge. In Hollywood, narratives are everything. The story you tell about yourself can make or break your career. But when that story becomes entangled with lawsuits, leaks, and deleted messages, the line between defending your truth and rewriting reality gets blurry. And for Blake Lively, that line is getting harder to see by the day. Whether she's the victim of a smear campaign or the mastermind of one depends entirely on which version of the story people choose to believe. As the hearing date for the sanctions motion draws near, both sides prepare for a showdown that could define their futures. For Blake, it's about vindication, proving she's been wronged. For Baldoni and his PR team, it's about survival, proving they've done nothing illegal or unethical. And for the rest of Hollywood, it's a warning. In the digital age, reputation isn't protected by lawyers or agents anymore. It lives and dies in the court of public opinion, where truth is whatever gets the most clicks. The courtroom was silent that morning, filled with a kind of tension that only happens when everything is about to change. Blake Lively walked in with her lawyers beside her, calm but visibly tired. Months of headlines, late-night strategy meetings, and endless speculation had taken their toll. Across the room, Justin Baldoni sat with his own team, equally serious, aware that this hearing wasn't just another step in a lawsuit. It was the moment that could define both of their reputations forever. The judge, a calm but stern woman known for her no-nonsense approach, opened the session by acknowledging the mountain of filings and public attention the case had drawn. She made it clear that this was a courtroom, not a stage for celebrity drama. As the proceedings began, Blake's lead attorney stood and launched into his argument. He spoke with quiet conviction, outlining how the deleted signal messages were the missing puzzle piece. That those auto-deleted chats likely contained proof of coordination, malice, and intent to damage Blake's reputation. He described in detail how, once the lawsuit was filed, all parties had a duty to preserve relevant communications. Yet those messages vanished, leaving nothing but suspicion. He didn't need to shout. His tone alone carried weight. When he finished, the courtroom was still. Then Baldoni's attorney stood, slowly buttoning his jacket, and began what would become one of the most talked-about defenses in modern celebrity law. He said the plaintiffs were asking the court to punish his client not for what they had done, but for what Blake imagined they had done. "We are not here to prove or disprove deleted messages," he said. "We are here to decide whether speculation can replace evidence." He explained that Signal's auto-delete function wasn't some secretive tool used to cover wrongdoing. It was a standard privacy practice. "If every disappearing message is treated as proof of guilt," he continued, "then no one in this industry will ever communicate honestly again." His words struck a chord with the judge, who listened intently, occasionally scribbling notes. When it was time for questions, she pressed both sides. She asked Blake's lawyer why he hadn't requested a forensic analysis earlier. She asked Baldoni's team whether any effort had been made to retrieve backups or notify opposing counsel before messages were lost. Both sides fumbled slightly, revealing the gaps that had defined this entire case. Too much emotion, not enough hard evidence. After hours of arguments, the judge finally took a deep breath and delivered her ruling. Her voice was steady, but what she said would echo across Hollywood. She denied Blake's request for sanctions. The court, she explained, could not punish someone for destroying evidence that was never proven to exist in the first place. Assumptions, she said, are not evidence. And speculation, no matter how compelling, is not justice. It was a devastating blow for Blake's team. Her attorney nodded respectfully, but his eyes gave away the disappointment. Baldoni's team, meanwhile, remained silent, careful not to celebrate. The judge wasn't done. She turned to both sides and said something that would later go viral. This case stopped being about truth a long time ago. It became about perception, and that's not what this courtroom is for. With that, she adjourned the session. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed, reporters shouted, and social media exploded. Blake didn't speak as she left, escorted by security into a waiting car. Her face, once a symbol of effortless grace, now looked burdened by the weight of months of scrutiny. For a woman who had built a career on being loved, the silence of the crowd was louder than any question. Justin Baldoni, on the other hand, kept his composure. He issued a brief statement thanking the court for its fairness and asked for privacy as his team considered their next steps. There was no gloating, no victory celebration, just exhaustion. But online, the reaction was anything but calm. Within minutes, hashtags like #BlakeVerdict and #TruthWins were trending. Fans debated endlessly, some insisting the judge was wrong, others saying Blake had finally been exposed. The internet, as always, split into sides, each convinced they were right. Meanwhile, Stephanie Jones posted again, this time writing, "Sometimes justice is quiet." It was the final spark that reignited a week-long storm of commentary. In the days that followed, media outlets ran their usual cycles. Breaking news updates, expert panels, think pieces about celebrity accountability. Yet beneath the noise, something deeper was happening. Hollywood insiders began whispering about the case as a turning point. For years, stars and PR teams had used lawsuits to control narratives, to silence critics or rewrite stories in their favor. But Blake's defeat, as painful as it was, showed that strategy might no longer work. Judges, reporters, and even fans were becoming more skeptical of perfectly crafted victim stories. Authenticity was replacing image as the new currency of fame. In the months after the ruling, Blake and Ryan took a step back from public life. They stopped attending events, skipped interviews, and focused on their family. Friends described it as a quiet retreat, a reset. Those close to Blake say she's been reflecting deeply, not just on the case, but on the pressures that fame brings. One friend said, "She's realizing that being right in the eyes of the public isn't the same as being right in court." It was a lesson that cost her dearly, both emotionally and financially. As for Baldoni, he continued his work in film and advocacy, but with a noticeable humility. In interviews, he avoided mentioning Blake by name, choosing instead to speak about forgiveness and moving forward. It was a subtle but powerful statement, a reminder that in the end, no one really wins in cases like these. Everyone loses something: time, peace, reputation. Hollywood quickly moved on, as it always does. New scandals, new controversies, new distractions filled the headlines. But for those who watched this case closely, it left a lasting impression. It revealed how fragile reputations can be, how easily truth can be distorted, and how the search for vindication can sometimes destroy the very image one is trying to protect. In the end, Blake's story became a cautionary tale, not of guilt or innocence, but of what happens when fame collides with the hunger for control. The missing messages, the legal motions, the media spin, all of it faded, leaving behind a single question. What's more powerful in Hollywood today, the truth or the story we choose to believe? For older viewers who've seen decades of stars rise and fall, this answer feels all too familiar. The faces change, the scandals evolve, but the lesson remains the same. In the land of make-believe, perception is everything, and once it slips away, even the brightest light can dim. And so the curtain falls on Blake Lively's most unpredictable performance. Not on screen, but in the courtroom, where the stakes were higher than any role she's ever played. The applause never came, the ending wasn't glamorous, but in its quiet way, it revealed something more honest than any script ever could. Hollywood may forget, but the internet never does. And somewhere in that silence, Blake Lively is learning how to live without the story that once defined her.